Well, hello friends, and welcome back to the cabin. I'll tell you, it has really been hot here, and honestly, I just kind of been, like I told you in the last video, laying low. And I imagine it's that way everywhere. It rains every day here. The humidity builds up during the daytime, it seems like, and the heat, and then there is enough moisture in the atmosphere later on in the afternoon where it will rain. So it does cool off a little bit after it rains, but as soon as that front, or as soon as the rain quits, then we're back to extreme humidity and high heat. And it looks like it's going to be like that for the next 2 weeks. Anyway, I'm going to show you where we're at down here at the workshop. So it's real early in the morning, so it's still kind of dark back there, but this is kind of where we're at. I was letting the boards dry, just kind of laid them on top of the 2x10s right there. I do have that plastic over there that has to go down, so I'll pull all of these up before I actually put them down. We'll spread that plastic out. That way, hopefully no moisture comes up from out of the ground. Although, you know, the underneath it can breathe. I'm still don't want to take a chance on moisture getting on the bottoms of the 2x10s and on the bottom of my flooring. And then you can see over there I'm quite crowded now because I've got everything moved over there to that one side. But this side right here is just about as big, even though it's not as long, but it's wider. So once we get these boards down right here, I can rearrange some of this stuff. And then I'll just have more room for some more stuff that I've got up there in the old sawmill. You know, I'm going to have to get down here also and clean this sawmill off. Because the other night when I got done, all I did was loosen the blade, because I never leave tension on my blade if the sawmill's not in use. And I do have to clean it off because we've got one more log that we need to saw up to get enough material, I think, in order to finish that floor. So when I do that, then I'm going to move all of those boards, like I said, put that plastic down, and then finish that floor over there. Now that's just the subflooring. We do have to put down plywood on top of that because it is shrinking and we are ending up with gaps, and we don't want that. But that 1-inch material is going to make a really good subfloor. I don't know if you can see up underneath there or not, but that's where I stored a lot of stuff because I didn't have no place to put it. And Jennifer was having trouble down there at her house with her vents. Now you can see I've got one there, and then I've got one over there. I've also got 3 in the back, and I've got 3 in the front. So I've got a total of 10. There's 3, 6, 7, 8, and then down there on the other end is 9, 10. She only had 7, and they only ended up on 2 sides. So she didn't have a lot of airflow through the crawl space in her house. So they put a dehumidifier down there along with a fan to create some airflow and then pull that moisture out. So that got me to thinking, you know, even though I've got more vents and my house is a lot smaller, how's it doing? You know, so I opened up those doors yesterday and I looked inside. It has been so hot and so humid for so long that I've got some pockets of water on top of the plastic that I've got on the ground down there because the condensation is collecting and probably dripping off of the bottom of that vapor. It's not a vapor barrier, but that radiant barrier down there on the bottom. So I'm hoping that I kind of pulled that back and looked on my floor joist. I didn't see any mold growing, so I think that that is keeping all of that moisture away from those floor joists. But I don't like the water laying down there, so what I may end up doing is putting a power plug down there and putting myself. This is the first year I've ever had trouble with that because it's been so humid for so long. But I do need to protect that down there. We don't want things starting to mold. So I may get, like I said, a fan, and I may have to put a dehumidifier under there. But mine is doing a lot better than hers because I have more airflow from side to side and from front to back. So that's something else that we're going to have to work on coming up because this is the first year that I've noticed that happening, and I've been underneath there many times. That's another reason that I was building that workshop because, like I said, I didn't have a place to store anything. So when I had that little bitty outhouse, if you're new to this channel, you probably don't remember it. I say outhouse, that little tiny house is what I meant to say. I had to clear everything out of there when I sold it so that I could clear room for that carport. and I had to find a place to put everything, so that's where it ended up. Yeah, the tiny house used to sit right there where that carport is sitting, and I needed the carport worse than I needed the tiny house, because we've got to protect the vehicles. And the only reason I think that I built the carport, I had built this section of the workshop first and had a place to park the tractor, but then I got to feeling really guilty because I had a $50,000 truck sitting out here, and I had a $40,000 tractor that was being protected, and I thought, you know what, I need to go ahead and build a carport for this truck. Since then I've got another vehicle, and so when we do something down there at the workshop as far as building onto it, when I get a lot of that stuff moved, I may build like some short sheds right there to park the ATV in, and this little red truck. I don't know, we may end up doing something. But I'll tell you, when you live up on the side of a hill like this, it gets a little difficult sometimes to figure out where you're going to put things, because you need sometimes flat ground, like, you know, for your implements, for your tractor and things like that. So I have to kind of create space as I go and decide, you know, what I want to do and how I want to set up the infrastructure the way that it's going to work best up here at the homestead. But yeah, it's kind of crazy, this weather. I'll tell you what, it has not only put a damper on me making videos, because to be honest with you, I just didn't have a whole lot of motivation to get out here. It was so hot, and the dogs, you know, they didn't want to go out. They would come to the door and they would stand there and they'd be like, it's too hot to go outside. I'd be like, yeah, you're right, let's go back in and sit down. So that's really what I've been doing, and honestly, I would suspect that most of you all have been doing the same thing, because I take it that it's kind of like this everywhere. It is very hot and very humid pretty much everywhere. So anyway, that's what's been keeping me down as far as not putting out videos for you all, because I just, like I said, I've been laying low and trying not to get too hot and just, you know, taking it easy. You know, another thing I wanted to mention was the power system that we put in by Signature Solar. It's the EG4 XP6000. I'll tell you what, friends, this thing works like a champ. So far, I have not changed the angle on those solar panels from the winter angle. And primarily the reason was, you know, after the sun comes up at about 11 o'clock in the morning, this thing's already charged up to 100% from what I used overnight, and it's ready to go. In the wintertime, it would continue to charge, you know, a little bit longer during the day, but whatever I used from the night before, we got back up to 100%. So I'll tell you what, this system is really, really working good. And I don't think that I even have to change the angle of those, because it's doing so well. Now, we are going to run power down there to the workshop. All I need to do is run some conduit underground, which is down probably about 60 feet down there, to come up on the inside. So once I do that and I start using this workshop more, I will consume a little bit more power, and I may have to adjust those, you know, for optimal use in order to be able to recharge during the day. But honestly, friends, when I come down here, you know, I only mill a couple of logs a week. So whatever material I have in there, you know, I'm not going to be using a great deal of power, because a lot of the stuff that I do it by hand, right, with hand tools. That's just the way I like to work. But yeah, we're going to have a little bit more power consumption down here, but I still, you can see they're still set at a 50-degree angle, which is not the optimum position for the summertime, because they would be leaned back at about 20 degrees. But like I said, they're doing great just like they are, so I didn't really see any need to change it. Which all I have to do, the way that I set that up, this is what the array pivots on, and this right here locks me in that position. I've got another hole drilled up here. All I would have to do is pull that out, rotate it, put that pin back in there. But why do that, you know, if I don't need it, right? That's just to optimize the power, you know, from the angle of the sun. But it is charging every day, so I've decided not to even change it until my needs change. So like I said, I'm going to get down here, I'm going to clean that off, I'm going to get those boards put up in there to the side, get that plastic put down, and get this floor finished. So that is the objective for today. Now, I mentioned a while ago, and if you're new to this channel, we've got in mind of building a shed roof at an angle coming off of here on this side, so that as I pull stuff off of the sawmill, I can just come around the corner right there to my workbench, and I can work up material. You know, if I've got to pull bark off of a log, whatever it is that I'm doing, I'll have an area right here so if it's raining I'll still be able to work. In order to do that, I'll have to set a post out here, right, which is probably going to block the entrance that I have been using with the tractor right there. But out there on that other end, I did kind of knock the hill down right here with the tractor and bucket so that I could come up through this area right here. I don't know if you can see for that sun, but that does give me plenty of room to get through here with the tractor. And if I do need to take those two little trees out, I may go ahead and do that, only because of the proximity being close to my solar panels. I don't think that those trees would ever fall. But this one right here is kind of leaning in this direction. So if we did have a high wind, once that tree got a lot taller, then it might lay over. So might go ahead and pay to pull those two out right there. But that would give me a large area to come up through with the tractor right there to get up into this area. So I would still have access up here to be able to bring the tractor in, let's say, and unload a log over there if I needed to be able to work on it and strip the bark even before I put it on the sawmill. So got lots of plans. I still got to work on Jennifer's shower down there and her bathtub, and I think that's about it. And then they can close on the house. I did mention one time that I have a friend at church who said that he would help me, who actually does that. So Jennifer is picking out, or she's looking at different types of tile, what she wants to put in there. So as soon as she gets that done, we'll probably start on that project. But anyway, friends, I appreciate you stopping by. I just wanted to kind of let you know where things stood up here, and it's just like where you're at. It's just a lot of heat, hot and humid, and we've been laying low. But anyway, thanks so much for stopping by. We certainly do appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you back up here at the cabin again next time.